So, hi everybody, welcome. My name is Victoria Johnson. I'm co-founder and director of the multi-award-winning organization Museum of Happiness. Today, we're going to be exploring how we make friends with our mind. And for anyone that doesn't know the Museum of Happiness, we're a not-for-profit social enterprise that shares the art and science of sustainable happiness in playful and reflective ways. And the reason we do this is because science has proven, and our own lived experience and all the many years doing this in the community now, is that sustainable happiness has a formula. Sustainable happiness is a skill that can be learned just like all the other skills. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if we'd learned the skill of happiness at school? We maybe wouldn't be in the mental health crisis we find ourselves into today. So that's exactly why we do this in schools. We do this in workplaces like Google, Facebook, the military, the NHS. And we've gone as far and wide as India and Australia sharing these tools. And it is such a joy and honor to get to do this with you today. So before I dive into the content, I'd just like to ring the meditation bells and we'll just have a moment of meditation just to hit that mindful pause button of life. Because I don't know about you guys, but I know that life can be very fast paced and it's really nice to just take a moment to hit the pause button. So just inviting you now to get nice and comfy. If you feel happy to, just closing your eyes. And I'm just going to ring these bells, and the invitation is to imagine that we're hitting that mindful pause button of life, seeing if you can listen to the bells all the way to the end. Just taking some really nice deep breaths now, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And on the in breath, imagining you're breathing in peace. And on the out, breathing out calm. Breathing in peace, breathing out calm. And if those words don't resonate with you and you want to choose different words, feel free to use words that feel more meaningful to whatever it is that you need right now. Just going to ring the bells again and we'll just come back together. So the invitation now we've just kind of hit the pause button of life a little bit, just checking in with yourself. What is your internal weather like right now? So this is just if there was a weather report from inside of you right now, what would it say? See if we can be that curious observer of what's going on in our inner world, just as we would look out the window and go, what's going on with the weather outside today? And the invitation here is to know you are not your weather. Emotions have the word motion in because they're constantly moving. We are not our emotions. We are not our weather. We're the sky, and the sky can hold all of it. So if your weather is desirable weather, maybe it's sunny, calm, see if you can savor that like a nice piece of chocolate, really honoring and acknowledging that right now at the moment it's desirable. This is a good feeling. If it is more like the picture and it's stormy, maybe there's 10-foot waves, maybe it feels really cloudy, really rainy, know that it will pass. And the invitation is to keep checking in with yourself daily just to see how you're doing and ask yourself this really important question. What do I need to best take care of myself? So just inviting you to ask yourself that question and just see what comes up. We are so busy tending to everyone else's needs very often, and we can forget about ourselves. What do I need to best take care of myself today so I can continue serving my family, my workplace, and everything else? We can't pour from an empty cup. So it's really important that we're checking in with ourselves and tending to our own needs in that similar sense of putting your own oxygen mask on first. So, we're going to explore how to make friends with the mind, do that just to understand the mind a little bit more. So, the mind's primary function is to keep us alive. It's not actually designed for happiness. This was really useful to our cavemen and cave women ancestors. And if we're sat here today, listening and watching this video, your mind has done a good job at keeping you alive. The mind is ultimately a don't eat me and a meaning making machine. So again, our cavemen, cave women ancestors, the mind's primary focus was to spot the threats, constantly scan for danger, and to make meaning from things. So we've evolved with this very overactive threat system now that overestimates any perceived threat or danger and underestimates our capability to be able to deal with it, because the mind thinks, well, it's better to be safe than sorry. The body's threat system is the same, whether it is a life or death threat, so like being chased by a tiger, or an everyday stress like missing a work deadline. The body doesn't know the difference. So what we have to do is almost, train the mind, communicate with the mind, and remind ourselves this is not a life or death situation. So we have 3 systems in the body. All mammals have these systems. So we've got our threat system that spots any threats and dangers. We have our drive system that motivates us. We have our soothe system, which calms us, also known as the rest and digest system. What is often happening in the 21st century is we're living in our threat and drive system constantly. A lot of people, most of us. And we're not balancing the soothe. So what happens is we come off balance. So, for example, all mammals have these systems. So if a lion was chasing a zebra, the zebra's threat and drive system would kick in. It would run away as quick as it can, and then it would probably go and rest for the rest of the day. What happens with humans is we push ourselves. We're constantly scanning for threat and danger. We push ourselves really hard and really fast a lot of the time, and we don't take time to do the rest and digest bit. And that's when we get burnt out or high levels of anxiety. So the good news is we just need to activate our soothe system more and become more aware of it and give ourselves what we need. And I'm going to show you some different ways that you can do this. So firstly, it's knowing that actually we as individuals, we can be the attacker and the attacked, or we can be the soother and the soothed. And this is from Dr. Kristen Neff's research. So the way you speak to yourself and the way you are with yourself has the power to put you in one of those 3 systems. In your threat system, if you're saying to yourself, you stupid idiot, I can't believe you've done that, everyone's going to think you're a failure, your body thinks you're being attacked. It's the same response as being chased by a tiger. Or if you're like, we've got this, we've been here before, we're going to do this, I've got your back, let's do this, we're motivating ourselves in our drive system. And if you're going, oh, do you know what, don't worry, Poppet, everybody makes mistakes, it's okay, I'm here for you, you'll activate your soothe system. So know that you have the power to put yourself in one of those systems. The tone that we speak to ourselves in is really, really important. So really just inviting you to just notice a little bit more what your inner chatter is like. We all have an inner dialogue. We speak to ourselves more than we speak to anybody else. We all do it. Doesn't mean that we're going crazy. We just do. So just the invitation is to just have a little bit more mindful awareness of the things that you're saying to yourself and what tone you're saying them in. So throughout this workshop today, I'm inviting us to be a curious observer of what's going on in our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, any sensations in the body. And what we're doing is we're building this noticing self. We are the self as context. We're not the weather, we're the sky, the glass or its contents, So we're going to be the curious observer of our experiences as best we can today. So just to kind of fine tune that, this may be a familiar concept or a completely new concept to people, just inviting you now to close your eyes again. And just listening to the sound of the bell all the way to the end as best you can. And just taking some really nice deep breaths now, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And the invitation through this short couple of minute practice is to be the curious observer of whatever's going on for you. And through a lens of curiosity, kindness, and non-judgment as best you can today. So the invitation now is to just notice if there's any sensations in the body. Now just noticing if there's any thoughts present for you. Is the mind thinking about anything from the past or the future? Where is your mind at right now? Just curiously noticing any thoughts, any stories, words, narratives that may be playing out. Just noticing where the mind wanders to. The mind is a natural explorer. The mind loves to wander to the past, to the future. And just noticing where the mind is now. Okay, so just taking some nice deep breaths again. I'm just going to ring the bell and we'll come back together. All right, so that was just a little practice. The mind is like a wild horse. It can be our greatest alliance, or it can cause absolute havoc if it's not trained. Or just like like we're trying to train a puppy to walk on a lead for the first time. The puppy will want to go and explore different things, go all over the place, gently, kindly inviting the puppy to walk back in a straight line. So it's the same with our mind. The mind just needs a little bit of training. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about how the mind works, the mindset cycle. So you can imagine this and remember it through tier. So we have a thought that often activates an emotion. That emotion usually influences some kind of action, which goes on to have some kind of result. So this is going on all the time, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. So at the Museum of Happiness, we explore things in playful and reflective ways. So we have about 70,000 thoughts a day. Because the brain has a natural negativity bias, we're often looking at the world through more of a negative critical lens. And again, this was really useful to our cavemen and cavewomen ancestors. Although your thoughts are unique to you, as humans, there's a real sense of common humanity with the different places that our thoughts can go. So we've put them into characters. See if you can resonate or are familiar with any of these characters that show up. The ruminator. So the ruminator goes over and over and over and over something. Maybe you've had a really busy day at work, you finally get in bed at night, and the mind just wants to replay and go over things. Because of that crafty negativity bias, often it doesn't replay all the really good things that happened that day. It might go over and over something that didn't go so well. The disaster thinker. So jumps straight to the worst case scenario. A friend hasn't messaged me back. Oh my God, is something wrong? Maybe I've done something. They've fallen out with me. The mind reader, again, just presuming that we know what people are thinking. Oh my God, everyone's really disappointed with me. I can tell. We don't know what people are thinking. People's facial expressions are not an indication a lot of the time of what's actually going on in people's heads. They've got their own 70,000 thoughts a day that they're mulling over. The mind reader can be particularly crafty and hangs out with the fortune teller. So the fortune teller, where we think we can predict the future, we know what's going to happen. This is going to happen. Everything is doomed. And again, because of that natural negativity bias, we don't often look at the future and everything's going to go really well. Everything's really going to work out for me. We're often looking at it through this kind of negative critical lens. The judge. So this judgment can pop up of judging ourselves, blaming others, blaming the world. The really, really good news is we all do this. It's just part of the mind. The mind just wants to keep you safe. The mind wants the same things for you that you want. It doesn't want you to live a miserable, negative life. It just wants you to be safe. all of those kind of catastrophizing, ruminating, judging mindsets, virtues and qualities of the mind were really, really essential to people staying alive in the cavemen, cavewomen, ancestor days. The really good news is we have lots of wisdom, compassion, kindness, perspective, knowledge inside of us. We know this, we give it quite freely to others. If a good friend comes and asks for advice, we're often able to give some very good, kind, measured advice. When it's ourselves, we're often much harder and critical with ourselves, again, because of this negativity bias. So see if you can channel some of these virtues and these qualities, knowing that we have this inside of us anyway. So compassionate mind, we're doing the best we can right now, and that's all we can do. Difficulties are a part of life. Let's not attack ourselves. This is hard anyway. Let's see if we can be a bit kinder and gentler with ourselves as we would a good friend. Happy mindset. Happiness is your birthright. Don't let anyone steal it. So just posing a question now, how much would you sell your happiness for? Million, maybe billion, billions. When I pose this question, people are usually like, what are the terms and conditions? So you don't know. Someone's just like, I'll buy your happiness off you. Just you name your price. Most people go, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't sell my happiness for any amount of money. And what happens is we often give our happiness away for £0 every single day, or at least once a week. When someone cuts us up in traffic, when we're queuing, when the supermarket doesn't have the food that we want, we give our happiness away for £0. So just a happy mindset, would be like, is this worth stealing my happiness? Big picture thinking. So this can be a really good one for the everyday stresses. So again, the body doesn't know the difference between a life or death threat or an everyday stress. So big picture thinking can be really useful to zoom out and go, okay, how bad will this be in a month, in a year, in 10 years, in 50 years? And just help us bring some perspective and just move us from a place of threat system to soothe system. It's like, I've just dropped this cup of coffee on the carpet. Threat system will get activated, catastrophizing thoughts. And actually it's like, how much is this going to matter in 50 years from now? It's, it's just a cup of coffee. It's okay. The wise owl is one of my favorites. So unfortunately, really difficult things do happen. The state of the world this last year has proven that. But if we can try and look for a lesson, a teacher, or learning, can really help us make meaning of these really, really difficult things. So is there a teacher, a learning, or a virtue, or that this situation can help me strengthen? What is this showing me about myself? Really, really look for the teacher. Sometimes it can take years for us to be like, I know what the lesson and the teaching is from that, really challenging thing that happened in my life. We may not always find the wise owl straight away, and that's okay. Attitude of gratitude. So this is a really good one for balancing out this natural negativity bias. So by just thinking about what am I grateful for in bed in an evening when the mind wants to ruminate and go over things that maybe didn't go so well, what are 3 good things that have happened in the last 24 hours? Well, the fact I woke up with a roof over my head, with fresh water from a tap, with eyes that I can see, mobility in my body. Is there one thing that you can be grateful for about yourself? Just, the hurdles and the obstacles that we've got through in life to be here at this point now, a bit of gratitude for ourselves. If there's somebody that you're annoyed with, this is a really good one for loved ones. If, someone in your family is being particularly annoying, is there anything I'm grateful for of them? Again, it can move you from a place of threat in your system, being very frustrated, annoyed, to like, actually, I'm grateful for them. They're all right. And this attitude of gratitude can be a really, really helpful one. There's a lot of science and the power of gratitude linked with sustainable happiness. If you haven't got a regular gratitude practice already, really encourage you to once a day, what's 3 good things that have happened in the last 24 hours? It is one of the things that rewires the neural pathway in the brain. So the brain naturally goes to the negative and critical. If you practice gratitude, it will go towards things to be grateful and optimistic for, and you ultimately end up having a happier, more fulfilling life when the brain is noticing things to be grateful for. So, little check-in about the mind. So the mind is constantly creating stories. It's It's really important to know that they are stories. Thoughts are not facts. Just because you have thought something, it does not mean that it's true. So yeah, that's right. All the negative critical things that you might think about yourself or say about yourself, it's not true. It's just a thought, one of your many 70,000 thoughts a day through that lens of negative and critical thinking that tries to help us survive. Try saying this instead. The story I'm telling myself is this. So the story I'm telling myself is I'm not good enough. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not successful enough. It's just a story. It's just a thought. Are there any other helpful virtues or those characters of the mind that you can bring in here to help kind of balance your nervous system and be kinder to yourself? So what I'd like you to do now is just pick a scenario of your choice. You might want to pause the video and work through this, or do it after the session. So pick a typical scenario. So this one of, a friend doesn't message back, for example. Your boss doesn't pick you to do a certain project, or what, just pick an example that feels true in your life, something that's not too triggering, not the most challenging thing and scenario in life, just for the purpose of the exercise so you don't get overwhelmed. Explore the characters that may play out. So I know disaster thinker often shows up for me, and then the ruminator, and then the judging of myself. These all still show up. Even though, I've been doing all of these practices for many, many years, they still show up. But the difference is I'm able to say, thank you, mind, and ask myself, is this helpful? And if the answer is no, thank you, mind, this is not helpful. Is there anything else that I can bring in here that would be more helpful to this situation? Can I offer myself some kind, encouraging words? This is hard already. Let's not attack myself and beat myself up about it. Write yourself a new story. This is something that I do all the time. When coming back to that thought cycle, okay, so I'm not feeling so good, checking in, what's my inner chatter saying? Okay, my inner chatter is being very harsh, very critical. I'm actually really ruminating on something that I can't change, and it's actually making me feel anxious. Coming back to that all important question, what do I need to best take care of myself right now? Often I'll grab a piece of paper, I'll write it all down. I sometimes feel like it's like airing my crazy. I get it all out of my head onto paper. And then I see actually all this negative critical thinking is going around in my head, and it's ruling me from the shadows. Getting it on a piece of paper, I can see often that it is very negative and critical. What I do on the other side is I write myself a more balanced, more helpful story. Okay, so the story I'm telling myself is this. Is this helpful or true? Well, thoughts aren't facts. Is this helpful? Maybe or may not be helpful. What characters are playing out? Okay, can I write myself a new story about this? What do I need to take care of myself in this situation? So really invite you to do that practice. It's a really good way of making friends with the mind. These more difficult thoughts are not your enemies. They want the best for you. We ultimately end up having a bit of an inner critic and an inner coach. The inner critic wants the same things for you as the inner coach, often just has poor communication skills. It will come through a lens of fear and criticism, trying to communicate the same message. Hey, I just want you to be safe. Your inner coach will be much more encouraging, more wise. Know that you have this in your power all the time. It just takes practice. So this is a really good one to work with. So most humans have this belief, this limiting belief that we're not good enough in some way, that we're flawed in some way, we're not attractive enough, successful enough, not lovable enough. Something not enough. So try this. When it pops up, I'm not good enough. This is just a thought. Notice it and label it. This is just this thought, I'm not good enough thought. Try, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, and try writing the reminder, I am enough. We're all perfectly imperfect as humans. We're doing the best we can, and that's all we can do. So we've talked a lot about thoughts. Thoughts and emotions are very interlinked. So meet your emotions. If you have watched the Disney Pixar film Inside Out, you will recognize these guys. If you haven't, I really highly recommend that you watch it. It's been created by a really skilled team of psychologists. So here we are. These guys, we've got anger, we've got joy, we've got sadness, we've got fear, and we've got disgust. These are our core emotions. Your emotions are not your enemies either. Fear, anger, sadness, they're not your enemies. They are messengers. They're coming to deliver a message. And I love this quote. It's natural to want happiness and not want pain, but we can't have a rainbow without a little rain. We need sadness. We need fear. We need disgust. We need all of these things. As much as it would be wonderful to just be joyful 24 hours a day, it's not realistic. It's not how we are as humans, and we need the contrast, just like what the rainbow quote explains. So psychologist Paul Ekman has come up with the kind of core emotions that we have and the messages that they may be trying to deliver. So this is kind of the common messages that he has found, but obviously it can be context dependent to whatever's going on in your life. So fear is often a call to feel safer. We're feeling threatened. There's a sense of danger. There's a need to assert yourself in some way. Anger can be a call for change, a call to action, protection. Maybe we need to draw a boundary. Something feels unjust and it's made us angry. So we need to, draw that boundary. We need to make a change. Sadness is often a message of, where we care, it hurts. Maybe we need to slow down, acknowledge that there's some kind of loss and need to heal. This sense of, I need to heal, and from what I need from others is compassion and care. So often when we start crying, this sadness comes up, and this is a signal to us, oh my gosh, I'm upset about this. I need to slow down. This actually hurts. I clearly care about this, otherwise it wouldn't hurt. And it signals to everybody else, oh, this person's crying. They must be upset. I need to show compassion and care. Disgust is this sense of aversion, move away from, this doesn't feel good to me. And joy is a message of, this feels good, do more of this. So know that your difficult emotions are not your enemies. They're just messengers. They're showing up because they want you to listen and often then act accordingly. I'm just going to share this beautiful poem with you. It's called The Guest House by Rumi. And I think it really emphasizes this point of, we're just being human. We're just this guest house, and there will be different visitors of difficult thoughts, difficult emotions. And it's not about trying to shut them out. What you resist persists. Anger will get more angry. If it's annoyed, sadness will get more sad if it is ignored. So we're seeing if we can just let things come, knowing that we're not our weather, things move, if we just allow space. So this being human is a guest house, every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. So momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Love that poem. It's one of my absolute favorites. So what the invitation is, it can be, again, you can pause the video or do this afterwards. And what I'm teaching you here is a practical tool and technique that you can use to make friends with your mind, to make friends with your difficult emotions, to make friends with the difficult thoughts that show up. Knowing that it's just part of being human. We all have difficult thoughts. We all have difficult emotions. They're not the enemies. We just need to make friends with them. We need to make room for them as best we can. So this is the practice. So get yourself in a quiet spot. Be the curious observer of what's going on. Okay, what thoughts or stories are playing out in my mind? what emotions are present right now. See if you can label them as one of those. It might be a different one. Anxiety, for example, may be an emotion that has come from fear, for example. See if you can label it with kindness and curiosity as best you can. You may even want to draw it out and try and bring a little bit of playfulness. The light playfulness can be a really good exploration. So seeing if you can make it as cartoon-like as possible. So we don't want to draw necessarily something that's going to be very frightening for us. But if we can draw a character, do you know, like in Inside Out, they've created these cute little characters. This little angry red character and little sad character. And most importantly, explore what the message is with curiosity and kindness and non-judgment as best you can. Be that observer self, that curiosity. You know, what is this message? I was somebody that really wouldn't listen to sadness. Sadness would show up and I would just throw myself into more happiness. And what happened was sadness got more sad. So just wasn't listening. And I did this practice and I sat with it, and sadness, actually the message that came was, I just want to be heard. All you want to do is hang out with joy. And actually I'm really sad about this, and you keep shutting me out and sweeping me under the carpet, which is making me more and more sad. And actually now what I do, taking that curiosity and playful approach, is, you know, sadness will pop up and I'll go, okay, all right, sadness is here. How can I best take care of myself right now? Okay, I'm gonna have a cup of tea and I'm gonna get my journal, or I'm gonna go for a walk and just try and explore what this message is. What is it that's making me sad? Or what is it that's making me feel angry? Okay, thank you for the message. I'm going to now take this action accordingly. Sometimes sadness shows up and I have to teach a happiness workshop. So what I have to do is go, okay, sadness is here. I finish work at, 5 p.m. today. I need to park this right now and focus on what I'm doing. But I promise I'll create space for you this evening to work through this sadness that has showed up. And this is me making friends with my difficult emotions, making friends with my mind, knowing that we're actually all part of a team ultimately, and that they want the same things for me, which is to be safe. So just to recap, the mind is just trying its best to keep you alive. Your difficult emotions are just messengers trying their best to communicate a need to you and to those around you. They are on your side and they are trying their best to work with you, not against you. So a little story of the two arrows. The Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? The student goes, well, yeah, of course it is. The Buddha then asked, if a person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful? The student goes, well, yeah, of course. The Buddha explained, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. Things will happen. We can't control it. However, the second arrow is often our reaction to the first arrow. So we often, something bad will happen, we'll beat ourselves up, so let's just be really, really mindful of not putting that second arrow in as best we can. Because pain times resistance equals suffering. So, life is difficult, it's part of being human. A full human life comes with a full range of emotions. The normal human mind naturally amplifies pain. Our brain has evolved to keep us safe, not make us happy, but we can retrain the brain by making friends with the mind, making friends with those different characters that show up and channeling the more helpful ones where it's useful. Being that little bit kinder and gentler with ourselves, what we're saying to ourselves, trying to treat ourselves as we would a really good friend as best we can. So I've got a little 2-minute video to show you guys now about trying to turn off the struggle switch.
It often seems like we've got a struggle switch at the back of our mind. And as soon as an uncomfortable emotion, a painful feeling or memory shows up, it's like the struggle switch goes on and we start to struggle with it. So Let's suppose anxiety shows up, a very common, painful emotion that we all get to experience. Anxiety shows up, the struggle switch goes on. Oh, here's anxiety. I don't like anxiety. I want to get rid of my anxiety. Now I've got anxiety about my anxiety. So it's getting bigger. With the struggle switch on, I now get, oh, my anxiety is getting bigger. How do I get rid of my anxiety? Now I've got even more anxiety. With the struggle switch on, I may then get angry about my anxiety. Why is this anxiety keep showing up? I hate this anxiety. Then I might even start to feel sad about my anger. Oh, is this my life? Oh, and then I may start to feel guilty about my sadness, about my anger. Oh, how pathetic am I when there's starving kids in Africa? So with my struggle switch on, my emotions get amplified. I've now got guilt about my sadness, about my anger, about my anxiety, about my anxiety. And that kind of amplification of emotions gives them more impact and influence over my life and often gets me bogged down or pulls me into self-defeating behaviors. Now, what happens if I can switch off the struggle switch? With the struggle switch off, anxiety shows up, and it's not that I like it or want it or approve of it, it's just I'm not going to struggle with it. I'm not going to invest my time, energy, and effort in struggling with this anxiety. Instead, I'm going to invest it in doing meaningful, life-enhancing activities, such as spending quality time with my friends and family or playing with my kids. Now, with the struggle switch off, the anxiety is free to move. It may get higher, it may get lower, it may move quickly, it may move slowly, but the point is it's free to move. It doesn't get amplified by all of these other emotions, which make it kind of bigger and stickier and make it hang around for a lot longer. So there's no such thing as a life without anxiety. It shows up for all of us. But when anxiety shows up and the struggle switch is off, it's so much easier to live with than when the struggle switch is on.
So I thought that was a really wonderful example of what can happen, that kind of second arrow, choosing not to put the second arrow in. And, anxiety is something that shows up for all of us. That video was created by Dr. Russ Harris, and that's taken from acceptance and commitment training, where the whole ethos is, our difficult thoughts and emotions will always show up. It often shows up when we're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone as well. Take them with you. Don't let them stop you doing things in life. The mind will overestimate the threat and the danger a lot of the time and underestimate your capability to be able to deal with it and cope with it. We're very, very resilient and we're very adaptable as humans. But the mind will always err on the side of caution for us. So know that difficulties are a call for extra kindness and compassion. Like this picture, these are taken beautiful by Molly from Buddha Doodles. Do check out her amazing work. Let's just take the difficulties in life as a chance to be that extra kind and gentle with ourselves, because it's hard anyway. Let's not beat ourselves up. Be really mindful of that second arrow. So 2 really important questions. Write them on a post-it note, put it on your fridge, put reminders on your phone. What do I need to best take care of myself? Ask yourself that question now. And what's the kindest thing I could do for myself this week, even just a little? Don't need to feel guilty for doing kind things for ourselves. Life can be tough anyway. It's not selfish. When we give to ourselves and be compassionate with ourselves, we're much more able to give to others. We're serving from a full place instead of depleted. So just as we start to close the session, know that you can use mindfulness to check in with ourselves and being aware of these difficult thoughts and emotions by being that curious observer. Be curious to which characters are playing out. See if you can introduce some more of the helpful characters to your story that you're playing out. Be really mindful of that second arrow and keep coming back to those all-important questions that Dr. Kristen Neff has come up with. What do I need to best take care of myself? What's the kindest thing I can do for myself? Be kind and gentle with yourself, your mind, and your emotions. You are doing the best you can, and that's all you can do. So just again, just as we close the session now, just inviting you to write down or ponder and reflect, what's your happiness takeaway from today's session and what may you do differently going forward? Take care, everybody. Stay in touch with the Museum of Happiness, museumofhappiness.org. Link up with us on social media to receive all the beautiful content. We hope to connect with you soon, and I really hope that this has been helpful. And if anybody has any questions, you can contact me through the website. Take care. Bye.